and welcome to another video. In this one we're going to make pumpkin shaped hot chocolate bombs. These were the original pumpkins that I 3D printed, and as you can see they're a little bit small for what I want, so I printed them again, and these ones are much better, much bigger. I split the print in half and then cast them in silicone so I would have a two-part mould. I used a nice flexible silicone, and this will work perfectly for making the two hemispheres of my hot chocolate bombs. So first things first, I'm going to make a chocolate one, a normal chocolate one. So I've got here some chocolate callets. Now this is pre-tempered chocolate, so all you need to do is melt it down and cast whatever you want and then let it cool and it's good to go. You don't have to worry about tempering the chocolate, it's literally already done for you. So that goes into the microwave at bursts of 30 seconds until done. And I'm also going to make orange coloured pumpkin bombs. So I start with these white candy melts, and again these go into the microwave, bursts of 30 seconds until melted, and then when they come out I will colour them with some food colouring. So here's the chocolate. As you can see, it's nice and smooth, nice and runny. So I'm going to take my first mould and I'm just going to fill it up with this chocolate and swirl it around until the inside of the mould is completely coated. Now because this is quite thin, I'm going to probably have to do 2 coats of this. So once this has been coated and emptied out, I take a palette knife, clean up the edges of the mould, and then that goes into the freezer. Now the only difficult thing about these moulds was obviously the stem of the pumpkin. I wanted to make sure that was as filled with chocolate as possible because it's a weak point and obviously could break. So I reinforce it. In fact, I pretty much fill it completely so that the stem is essentially solid chocolate by the end of it. And that just mitigates the possibility of it breaking. So with the first one in the freezer, I'm just going to fill the second one up, exactly the same process. I've melted enough chocolate here so that once the first 2 have set, I can remelt these callets and then do a second coating. But as before, I just swirl it around, make sure it's completely coated, and then empty it out. So now those 2 are freezing, it's time to do the orange ones, and as you can see I found my pumpkin decor items. So those have appeared randomly in the background, adding just a little bit of autumnal feeling to the back of this video. Well done me, set dressing. Now adding food colouring to these candy melts will cause it to seize a little bit, so I'm just going to put a little bit of Trex, which is vegetable shortening, in. That will thin the candy melts back out and make it easier, make it runnier, so easier to fill the moulds. I don't put too much in because I don't want it completely runny. That will kind of ruin the integrity of these melts, of this chocolate. So I just put enough that I can put it in, and then with a little bit of percussive maintenance, move the chocolate around, or with a spatula or a palette knife. The important thing is the inside of the mould is completely coated. And as before, I'm going to tap out the excess, take a palette knife, smooth out the edges, and then pop that in the freezer to chill until I can put a second coat in. And as you can see, this one will definitely need one because I tapped a bit aggressively and took out quite a bit of the inside, so this will definitely need a second coat. Now I essentially decided to do this because I've not had very much luck finding pumpkin-shaped hot chocolate bomb molds online. The ones that I found were flat-bottomed, which meant I had to basically fabricate a base to them, and it was messy and difficult and just wasn't any fun, really. So this was easier. I basically found an STL file online of the pumpkin, split it in my Anycubic software, and then resized it, printed it. It took about 40 minutes to print. I did a little bit of cleanup, not a massive amount. There are still some print lines visible on the pumpkin at the end of this, but I don't mind that so much. And then I just cast it in this nice food-safe, flexible silicone, and I made 4 of these molds so I can produce as many of these as I want. So as you can see, the coating on this second orange hemisphere is a little bit thicker. This is probably more what you would want. This might not even need a second coating. So into the freezer that one goes, and I will top up the other one off camera. So the milk chocolate ones have solidified now, and I'm just going to top up another coating inside, swirl that around, make sure that it's completely coated. You want to make sure the chocolate comes right up to the edges, because that will allow you to fuse them together later without any weakness or gaps. So once again, that goes back into the freezer while I work on the second one, and these turn out quite strong actually. They come out of the molds really easily later on. So I was very pleased about that, because this was the first time I'd used this particular brand of ready tempered chocolate. The original one that I used, they seem to have discontinued, which is very irritating. But this is nice. This is a nice, smooth, runny, pre-tempered chocolate. So and I bought absolutely loads of it, so I'm pleased that it's worked well. So here I've coloured a little bit more of that white candy melt green, and I'm just going to cast a couple of little leaves in this mould that I've got, because I've got an idea of how I want to decorate up the orange version of my hot chocolate bomb. I want to put a leaf on top, and I want to pipe some of this green candy melt to look like vines. So I basically fill the mould as I have before, you know, just place it in, scrape it smooth with the palette knife, and then that goes into the freezer as well to set up. So now that the chocolate has completely set, I very, very carefully peel the edges of the silicone mould away from them. You want to do this as carefully as possible. Unfortunately, this is a very flexible silicone, and then you can just push underneath and it will pop free. And that's it. That's half a hemisphere. That's ready to go. And there's the second one. So to join these together, you're going to need to use heat. And my favourite way of doing it is to use my ridiculously hot commercial oven. It gets exceedingly hot on top, so I just clean it and then turn it on and then place them on top, and as you can see, in just a couple of seconds they already start to melt. So I'm going to fill these with hot chocolate powder and a couple of marshmallows, and this is Galaxy frothy hot chocolate powder, but it really doesn't matter what brand you use. Once the first half has melted sufficiently, I put a couple of teaspoons of powder in, a couple of marshmallows, and then, acting quickly, get the second hemisphere, which is also melted quite nicely, and press them together, making sure that they meet perfectly. There will be a little bit of squeeze out, but that's actually useful. You can take a finger and then wipe it along, and that kind of presses the chocolate into any gaps there may be and makes a perfect seal. And that's it. That is hot chocolate bomb number 1, sealed and ready to go. So I'm just going to do a little zoom in so you can see it a little bit closer. And there you go. Very nice. So exactly the same thing with the orange hemispheres. As you can see, peeling that silicone away from the edges very, very carefully, and then I will apply a little bit of pressure to the base, to the bottom, and just pop it free. I really like them in orange. Obviously they look a lot more like actual pumpkins. I've done these in white as well, because you can get white pumpkins, and that's preferable to some people. Some people don't like the idea of having, you know, food colouring in a drink. I can't say I blame them. It would be a little bit disconcerting to have an orange hot chocolate, but 'tis the season. So just the same, these go onto the oven until they're melted. They literally take just a few seconds to melt, and then I fill them up and press the two hemispheres together. So you can see the little bit of squeeze out here, and just with a couple of fingers I can smooth that in, even smooth the little air bubble that was there as well, just with some more of that melted candy melt. And again, that's it. That's Hot Chocolate Bomb number 2 completed. Now I lost the footage, but I did take a little bit of edible metallic gold paint and painted the stem of the milk chocolate pumpkin. I think that looks really pretty, and it just adds a little bit of you know, extra interest. It's simple, it won't affect the drink in any way, and it's very pretty. Now, to my absolute irritation, I also lost the footage of me piping on some vines and adding the little leaf, but all I did was I took the green candy melt mixture that I had earlier, made sure it was still fairly thick, and then put it in a piping bag, snipped the very tip off, and then just piped a couple of these little vines, and then popped the leaf out of the mould and just stuck it onto those wet vines, and they just stuck together perfectly. And because they're all candy melt, they will all melt the same way in a mug. And the same as with the milk chocolate one, I just take some more of that edible gold paint and just zhuzh up the stem a little bit. I didn't have to do this step. I could have left this plain. I could have, if I was much more careful, I could have probably filled in just the top stem with brown chocolate, and then I would have had a brown stem, and that would have also been very pretty. But that's the two of them, side by side. I really like the orange one. I really like the leaves and little vines. And I think it's time for a taste test. So I found the biggest mug that I own, because these are quite large hot chocolate bombs, heated up some milk for a few minutes until it was quite hot. You can see how hot it is, and then pulled that in on top, and you'll see it immediately started melting that chocolate, which is fantastic, lovely to see. And with a spoon, I just mix it all together. The powder pops out, the marshmallows pop out, and at the end of it, you're left with a frothy, rich, delicious, creamy hot chocolate. Of course, you could also do this with boiling water. I think that hot milk makes a tastier drink, so that's the direction I went. You don't need to add sugar. The chocolate in there and the powder makes this absolutely sweet and delicious. It doesn't need anything more added to it. And that's that. That is how I made 2 delightful little pumpkin-shaped hot chocolate bombs. Perfect for autumn, perfect for Halloween. Thank you for watching. Please drop a like or subscribe if you fancy it. It will help me out so much, and I will see you in the next one.